Others are filling up their glasses. No expression, no expression.
In the eyes of the people, women are not an essential part of society. They are not capable of leading a nation, but yet they take on the responsibility of bearing and raising children, providing an income, and having a strong presence in the community. They not only have to worry about themselves day to day, but others even more. Women are compassionate, loving, kind, and selfless people who worry about being a good wife to their husband, a role model to their children, an excelling person in society. They have the power to bring people together or tear people apart. They make significant choices for themselves, but also for people all around them. They stand up against what is wrong and fight for equality.
When they cannot stand up for justice, they must do what is even harder than speaking up: cooperate. Women have been through many persecutions because they are not seen as individual human beings, but through these hardships they have grown stronger and stronger. They are the backbone to the nation, because without them, populations cannot increase or improve. Women had the special obligation to represent the nation throughout the time of Hitler and continue up to the Bosnian War. Even today, we are seeing that oppression is still occurring towards women. Violence was used against them to tear down nations as a whole, but women continue to persist, and today can coexist in many different nations.
In the book In the Garden of Beasts, Larson tells the story of a German woman who was engaged to a Jewish man. In consequence of this anti-Nazi atrocity, the woman was publicly humiliated in front of a large crowd in Nuremberg. The helpless woman was dragged down the streets of Nuremberg with a shaved head and countless people yelling profanities at her figure. Women are usually seen as nurturing and loving creatures, so to see an innocent woman being punished so brutally is a sign for all to fear who is responsible.
Women of the Aryan race were also abused with rape in order to increase the Aryan population of Germany. In schools, young females were taught that they should not have sexual relationships with any boys outside of their Aryan race in order to preserve German national identity. In the 1940s, during the time of Hitler's rule, concentration camps were set up all over Germany. The notorious all-female camp called Ravensbrück housed tens of thousands of Jewish, Roma, and other races that were not considered worthy by the Nazi Party.
At Ravensbrück, women were subjected to all kinds of violent oppression, such as sexual victimization, pregnancy, abortion, unwanted childbirth, murder of newborn babies, intense labor, and unsanitary living conditions. The Nazis even went as far as to do unethical scientific experiments on women subjects with no anesthetics of any kind. Religious women became prostitutes to the SS in order to earn food and drink. The abuse towards women in the concentration camps took a huge toll on mothers who were now unable to look after their child at the same camp. Women were not only hurting physically but mentally were unable to cope with what violence would happen next.
Ravensbrück is a women's camp, women only, and it was overloaded. And in Ravensbrück, they didn't put us into any of the barracks. They right away straight put us into the Totenbark, into a barrack for death, for killing. And the method they used was that into an area that could hold 100 people, they put 1,500. And there was no room to stand. There was no furniture in the place. There was no room to stand. So some people were hanging in the air. And there was no oxygen, not enough oxygen. And it was, nobody even talked about food. There just was no way to get down.
Throughout the 1992 to 1995 war in Bosnia, thousands of women were raped, many of them systematically and repeatedly. It was thought that raping a woman was a successful tool in ethnic cleansing. Through rape, the women would become pregnant with children who looked ethnically different from their mother. They thought this would spread the Serbian seed more efficiently.
Because the Serbs wanted the Bosnians to leave, they used rape as a tactic to instill fear into the people. Public rape would force people to leave the country in hopes of eliminating the Bosnian Muslim population in that area. Rape was also a tool for soldiers to threaten the women to find out the whereabouts of their husbands or other men who were hiding out. The Serbs set up rape concentration camps everywhere along the city, restaurants, motels, schools, and other large buildings.
An example of a concentration camp was Partisan Sports Hall, which held up to 70 women and kept them on months on end, where they were raped repeatedly. Rapes would oftentimes be in the presence of their family members and by multiple men continuously right after another. Some women in these concentration camps resorted to pretending to be crazy, so that soldiers would have no desire to rape them, but in some occasions this did not always work. Any woman was a target of rape, old or young, healthy or not healthy.
After being raped, many of these women came back husbandless. They had to cope with their suffering all alone. In some cases, it was worse to come back to a husband who did not want them after their rape. Fortunately for the women, there was a fatwa, which was an understanding that the Muslim men should still accept their wives even after being raped.
But definitely rape was used as a tool in the war to discourage the whole community, you know, because once you destroy a woman, you destroy one family. And that was the point. And that's...
The Bosnian immigrants living in Germany today are seeing a new side of history. The oppression of society has dulled down, but is still existent on the streets today. Immigrants in Berlin today stand out and are sometimes unwelcome in the society. It can still be tough for Bosnian Muslim women today because there is still racism hovering the streets. Women wearing headscarves may attract unwanted attention because they are clearly showing their Muslim identity.
When traveling back to Bosnia, women may not feel comfortable to walk the streets alone in case of harassment and violence that could step in their way. They struggle with an identity crisis where they do not consider themselves German, yet they live there most of their lives. However, the women ignore any judgments towards them and are still able to express themselves through religion, style, and voice without fear of physical punishment by the government. Young women have the opportunity to travel, go to school, and hold jobs alongside men.
The 6 days I've been kind of 4 times, maybe what you could call harassed. So once somebody spit at me, twice they shouted things, or once a guy barked at me.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is the kind of everyday life. To be honest,
In the future, women may still face violence directed at suppressing their identity and their culture. No matter their age, race, or religion, women are still the target of violence in many nations. Women during the Holocaust had to bear the burden of being killed only because they were not a part of the Aryan race.
Bosnian women had to go through rape countless times so that the race could ultimately become more favorable, or otherwise Serbian in this case. Bosnian immigrants living in Germany today still face harassment for being different. Although violence and abuse has been used against women in the past and present, women have persisted and are now a stronger backbone for the world.